Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, April 26th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner of most pages that says Start Here, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book is a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That primary tool is the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for the past 16-plus years to improve the quality of my life and relationships and effectively turn any negative emotional I experience into part of the infallible guidance system that we've all been gifted. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. You can download the worksheet process itself in a PDF file, absolutely free. And you can go to your App Store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the worksheet process, an abbreviated version of that process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we encourage people to do that soon and often because that usually stimulates questions or comments or testimonials, and then give us a call. Our call-in number here is 563-999-3581. And when you call that number and press 1, it will put a little question mark by your phone number, and we'll announce you by your area code and have a conversation. We've also agreed to do the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year. Today is the 116th day of the year, and today's workbook lesson is part of the review. Over the weekend on Saturday, the review was I am Spirit, and I will accept my part in God's plan for salvation. Yesterday's lesson review was Salvation is my only function here, and my part is essential to the Creator's plan for salvation. And today, the review lessons are lesson 101 and 102. Today is the Creator's will for me is perfect happiness. Creator's will for me is perfect happiness, and I can suffer but from the belief that there is another will apart from His. So all of my suffering in this lesson, it's very clearly stated that all of my suffering comes from being out of alignment with the Creator's will for me. The second part of today's lesson is I share the Creator's will for happiness for me. I share my Father's will for me, His Son. What He has given me is all I want. What He has given me is all that there is. So on the hour, we recite the Creator's will for me is perfect happiness. And on the half hour, we can recite I share the Creator's will for happiness for me. In Pam Grout's book, The Course in Miracles Experiment, her lesson 116 is titled, On Behalf of Love. She quotes L.R. Nost as saying, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally, because the broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. So go ahead and love intentionally, love extravagantly, and love unconditionally, because the broken world waits in darkness for the light that is in you. And then Pam writes, for morning and evening review, the dude's will for me is perfect happiness. That perfect happiness is all I want. Pam writes, don't fret, don't stress, don't work so hard. When I worry and wonder and work to find peace and serenity and whatever else I desire, I send out vibes of eeks. And vibes of eeks are diametrically opposed to my perfect happiness. I can strive and fret and send out those eeky sounds to the atmosphere, or I can rest in knowing that Source, as we speak, is lining up everything I could possibly want or need. So that's our Course in Miracles lesson for today. And we have another 249 days remaining in the year. We'll do our best to continue with that process. Area code 813, you're in the air. Who do we have? Area code 813, you're in the air. And perhaps you did not intend to press 1, so I will mute you again. So we have plenty of time for a conversation. We have 52 minutes left in the first hour. And we have plenty to talk about, plenty to celebrate. What's on your mind? What would be a useful topic for you to spend some of the next hour discussing? Our call-in number again is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. I was doing some listening over the weekend to a variety of things. One of them was a Michael Rice lecture. Another one was a Guy Finley lecture on Sunday, and stuff from the Tao Made Easy. But someone else has a hand up. Susan, welcome.
Hi. Did 813 call back, Dr. Tim?
Say that again, Susan.
Did 813 just call back again? I heard some noise, so I wondered if they were trying to get through again. If not, I'm here.
Well, I had turned on the microphone, and all I heard was noise, so they weren't ready to talk.
Oh, okay.
So what is your thought?
Well, it's almost too soon to be talking yet. It's been an incredible weekend of, I hope it's a healing crisis, is all I can say. Many things coming together from the work you started me off on last week with the tribe and its song. Michael had asked me or told me to do a worksheet or two as if I were my mother doing the worksheet. And that was different from his first assignment, which was to write a letter from my mother to me. And that came pretty easily and didn't go where it probably needed to go. But the worksheet was different. But I did get stuck in a couple of points. One of them was she had no belief in God or any sense of what denial would be, neither one. So as for the belief in God, I just put in that blank. I put in my best judgment or my highest, best self. And that seemed to be all right. I wish I had the worksheets with me. I left them upstairs, and I've got one hand in an avocen, so I'm going to just stay here. But there are so many side effects from doing this work. At least I hope it's side effects. Waves of anxiety, waves of depression, then waves of intense delight and gratitude, insights into how our family dynamic has gone backwards for generations and forwards for generations. For instance, my intense wish to help my mother, to comfort my mother, which got displaced very early onto other people. And I realized that I never trusted my mother enough to confide in her. Even, starting with teenage, when things started bothering me, I kept them apart from her and showed her a cheerful face and tried to be the good kid and not tell her things I was scared about. But after doing the work on Friday, I went up to visit my son to take the dog back, and he looked at me, and my son has always done this, even as a little boy. He looks at me and says, you don't look so good. What's going on? And I was putting on I was fine, but he said, yeah, something's going on. Are you okay? And even as a little boy, he used to ask me, are you okay, Mom? And I feel I've got to do worksheets on that. I feel very sad that my little person would be in a position to take care of me, that he would find himself having to take care of me when I feel as if basically I'm sturdy and okay. And he told me that he and my daughter had a discussion some weeks ago about how they have to kind of rally to make sure I'm okay. It wasn't Tim and me, my husband Tim. It was, we got to watch out for Mom, make sure she's okay. And I didn't want to give that to him. I didn't intend to give that to either one of them, but it's already done. And I don't know what to do with that either. Probably just worksheets.
Well, and the other part of it is you didn't give them anything. So when your son is that young and he's picking up energy from you, all it means is he's very emotionally sensitive. It doesn't mean that you are putting out signs that there's a problem or that you're weak or that you need him to fix you. It's just an indication of his emotional sensitivity and his working to tease out what all of these energies are. He has to learn. He doesn't just instantly know, oh, this energy is good or this energy is bad or this energy is neutral or this energy is my mom, how she is when she's really focused on a project. Or he wouldn't know any of that stuff intuitively when he's born, so he has to ask about it. And you're talking about someone who has been very sensitive. Is this the same person who would tell you that somebody he was dating or somebody he met had a song?
Yeah. I know, he's the one. I have one son, one daughter. So
yeah, so you're talking about somebody who is just very sensitive, and notice that you've taken data points, and the data point being the fact that he says something to you and asks about, are you okay? And you've arranged that into a conclusion that says you've done something wrong.
Okay, yeah, I get that. That's true.
And there's no evidence for that in the actual data points. It's just, the factual interaction is that he's very sensitive and he picks up some energy in you, and so he's checking it out. And he was doing that from a very young age.
Yeah.
But now he's also gotten all of his own layers of his own issues and his own traumas in life, and so he has his own fearful filters going, and that's probably every bit as much responsible for his asking you if you're okay as anything you're doing that's off the mark.
Okay, that's good. It just deflates some of that sense of responsibility and having done something to hurt him. One thing
I have a woman that I work with on a regular basis, and we've traded the neuro-emotional technique for years. And at one point, about an 11-year stretch, almost every week we did NET on each other. This is that neuro-emotional technique. And this is a woman who is so emotionally sensitive that not every time, but routinely when she comes in, she comments on my energy. And I'm just going about my day, right? I'm not aware of having a heavy energy or a light energy or, chaotic energy. And this last time when she came in, she said, "Wow, your energy is really low." I wasn't aware of it at all. But she's picking up something, and so I don't instantly assume, I'm doing something wrong. I just take it as input. Okay, well, she's picking up something. I'm not yet aware of it. And as we, work through the issues or have our conversation, I just keep that in mind. But I don't assume I did something to her with my energy being low. I just assume it's something she's got a sensitivity to and something she's noticed.
Yeah. Along with that, with my son at least, and maybe with this woman and maybe even with you, formerly, if not now, is he has, one reason he's a medical doctor is he has felt responsible for people who are hurting and a deep wish to take away the hurt. And he is doing a lot of good work on doing his best, but doing it from a more impersonal way, doing his very best and knowing he's doing his best and letting the rest be not up to him, but just up to the person's healing powers, up to God, whatever. So he goes back and forth now between really taking on too much of a sense of responsibility. He used to go into the ER and feel responsible for people who came in with injuries and illnesses, and he'd feel responsible even though he had not had any contact with them. Now it's just concentrated more on people he's operated on who aren't doing as well as he would have hoped. He'll lose sleep. He'll check the stats on his phone in the middle of the night to make sure the person's rallying. He'll go in extra hours to stay with them to make sure they're okay. And that's good in some ways, but it's just so much on him. It's so much on him, and he knows that, and he's paying attention to the difference between being over-responsible, taking it too much into his own sense of responsibility. So that's one thing he's doing. And, we both make rather much more light of the feelings we have. I just said to him, I'm surprised you picked up on that because I feel better now, but I have had a lot of processing going on today, and I felt like crap some of the day. You know how it is. And he said, yeah, I sure do. And that was the end of it. Then we went on to other things. So I've just got to let it go by and not stay with it.
Well, so it's a good thing. And you have just identified that you've got some really unproductive negative beliefs that you could explore with worksheets or, EFT tapping or journaling about how you've hurt your son and others because of your emotional processing.
Right.
And that's never been the case. That's a false belief. So rather than just saying, I got to let it go, I would encourage you to pick up the tools that you have that you now know are so productive and apply them to some of those false beliefs and those negative emotions and dismantle them at the root.
Dr. Tim, this work from Saturday, Friday, and the radio show and through the weekend has had so many, I guess it's hydras, but they're not really hydrants. It's just so many realizations and new understandings. And I've written 2 letters to friends, one who's in the intensive and could even be on the show today, because she was telling all of us that she had decided not to be vaccinated, that she trusted in her own immune system and on her higher power and on her highest guidance, and she had made that decision. And Michael was great about it. He said, that's good. Yep, right. You're doing the right thing. What do? I find an article about a husband and wife, because she's in a marriage or a relationship where one of them wants to have the vaccine and the other one doesn't. And so I sent her a wonderful New York Times article telling both sides, and also telling her I had my reservations about it too, which I did, and I read a lot, and she's read a lot. But what I was doing really at bottom was trying to change her mind, because I had changed my mind, and I was thinking it was the right thing and all that. So I wrote to her, and I said, man, please, I did the whole pono with her. I just said, I'm sorry, forgive me, you're teaching me something, I love you, ooh. And I hope she can accept my apology. And then there was one other woman, something similar but not the same. And I wrote to her, but it's all coming from this same work, although I'm not quite clear how that all fits in.
So
and
what did you take most from the work on Friday? Just for the anybody who might just be tapping into this show who wasn't in on Friday, what's the work from your perspective that you were tapping into for Friday that's most important to you?
I couldn't tell you, Dr. Tim, and I've tried to figure that out. That's a bad phrase to use. Feel my way into it. I'm in a place where I don't understand much. Just that I guess the song thing was like an invitation to be who I am, be real, find my own song, and honor everyone else for finding their song, and allow them to have their song, not think mine's better or right or wrong or anything. And then you had suggested, or maybe it was Michael, I can't even remember, walk by the mirror and sort of catch yourself by surprise. Was that you?
That was Michael. That was in the second half of the show. I had given you the potential mind shifter that there's never been or will there ever be a person who has more value than Susan Bingham. And so, the whole theme of the show from what you were working on was, is it okay for you to have value and to appreciate your value? And you were talking about things that you experienced with your mother, who did a lot of facelift surgeries and things, and not wanting to look her age, and your own issues with how you look physically and whether or not you can see your value, or whether you get hung up on the physical appearance, etc.
Right.
It was loaded. There were all kinds of things going on in that show.
No kidding. Well, today I was teaching my Pilates class, and we teach on Zoom, and I have a mirror behind me, which is part of a big armoire. And it's very useful for teaching because the students can see me at front view and hind view if I just stand in a certain way. So they get a full view of positioning, hands where they are, head tipping, whatever. But I looked in the mirror and caught myself by surprise, and I thought, who is that? And then I thought, not that she looked good or bad, but that I appreciated her. And I saw my relatives in that person and how I'm so connected. And if I saw that, then I realized I'm connected to everybody. And I felt I had trouble getting through the class. I felt like crying through the class just to have found myself, and I didn't recognize her. But I accepted her. And what that's about, I couldn't tell you either, except I think it's that I'm not my body. My song doesn't represent. My song is it, and my image in the mirror isn't it. And it's nobody's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the song you're referring to was that I had been reading from the Tao Made Easy, and they talk about, Alan Cohen talks about a tribe in Africa where when a woman gets pregnant, some family and friends go out with her in the wilderness and pray and meditate until they hear the song of the baby. And they believe that every human has their own unique song. And then when they've heard the song of the child, they go back into the village and they teach that song to the village. And then the village practices it, and then when it's time for the baby to be born, they all sing that song. And then major events in the person's life, beginning of education and marriage and having their own child, they sing that song. And then finally when the person's ready to leave and pass on, the whole village gets together and sings that song. And then the one other time that they sing that song to the person is if that person breaks a rule, a social convention, or does something rude or harmful. Rather than punishing the person, the whole village gets together and they sing them their song to remind them of their true nature. And there was something about that. Yeah, there's something about that story that struck you so deeply that it evoked tears. And we were talking about various things, including how your parents were not able to appreciate you as a person, encourage you to discover your song or ever hear your song, etc. And that prompted a whole bunch of discussion and suggested exercises for you about self-appreciation, self-acceptance, etc.
And I don't even think, this isn't true for my father. If he would have understood, he was a musician too, although that wasn't his profession. He would have understood that song thing. And toward the end of his life, when he had a heart condition that he knew was going to take him out, and he wasn't going to do anything about it, he was just going to let it take its course. One time we were visiting him, and we were about to leave, and I was already in the car, sitting in the back seat. He reached through, and uncharacteristically for any of us ever in my family, he took my hand in his hands and held it with both of his hands and just didn't say anything, but just held my hand. And so I knew that he really loved me, and I always did know that. So I think it's just my mother and me. And I don't even think she wouldn't understand about the song. I think she would. She adored music. Anyway, I don't know why I'm taking that tangent, but I guess I don't want to own the fact that I thought they didn't know my song. I think I didn't know they knew it, and I didn't give them credit for knowing it, and we didn't know how to find our way back to each other after all those punishments, which took place in the first 12 years of my life. That's not my whole life by any means, but by then the die was cast, and I had just left, and I never went back in any way that was emotionally open. So that's a real regret to me too, and that has been coming to mind.
The regret that you never went back emotionally after all those severe punishments of your youth?
Yeah, I didn't go back when my mother would have been safe enough, I think. She wouldn't have taken out the writing crop in any case. She had a lot of fears about emotional expression, squeamishness. Anyway, yeah, I just didn't take the opportunity to really know her or let her really know me either. It's just a thing.
Well, we have a familiar area code with the hand up, 484.
Hi, Dr. Tim. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Ellen.
Hello, Ellen.
Hi. Hey, I just wanted to say, like, when I guess this was on Friday's show, which I missed. So it's so good to hear the story about the song. And when you were retelling it, I could tell, and you mentioned that Susan part of it had brought her to tears, and I could tell that the part that had brought her to tears was the part when you said when the person did something wrong, instead of punishing them, they sang their song. Mm. And the thought that punishment isn't necessary. In fact, it does way more harm than good. And that's such a beautiful story that was how they would rectify or let the person know that what they did was not really who they are, and just to remind them of who they are instead of punishing them for what they did. Because I think we get so confused in this country or in this world between who someone is and what they do, which is not the same thing at all. People think that if someone does something what they think bad, then they're a bad person, and that's never the case. I mean, I'm sure you agree that most people that do what we call wrong are the ones that were the most hurt as children. And so to continue to punish them is not helping at all.
It's to add hurt to hurt.
Exactly. And I was just noticing, Susan, how well you took over for your parents when they stopped punishing you and you started punishing you.
Well, that's true. And you know what, Ellen? Obvious as it seems to me now, I didn't connect what you just said, that my mother could have sung me my song instead of used the whip. It just didn't connect there. But that part of the story it is so wonderful that they would sing and make a circle and sing to that person. Just wonderful. Yeah.
That's what I know.
Go ahead.
So have you discovered what your song is yet?
Oh, no. In fact, I was curious. I would love to hear what one of those songs is like. I can imagine it. It doesn't have words. It's a melody. And maybe it has words, but in my mind, it would be pre-verbal because the baby is coming into the world without a language yet. I wonder if that tribe has ever sung one of those songs into a tape or something. The anthropologists, did they ever get a hold of one of those songs? Dr. Tim, did you ever learn the name of the tribe that did that?
Yes, it's in the book. I'm scanning for it now. I had highlighted it, so I should be able to find it. When a woman in the African Himba tribe, Himba, the Himba, Himba, Himba tribe. So if you want to research it, maybe you can find there's somebody that did some anthropological work and recorded it, and you might find something of use to you there. Although you'd probably have just as much benefit if you could get your son to tell you about one of the songs he heard, in quotes, when he met somebody and came back and told you they have a song.
Yeah, I could do that. Well, but And I was going to add that the unraveling of the self-punishment has begun, but it's as if, when you have a yeast infection and you're finally not eating the bad things, and so your body is detoxing. I have been in this massive physical and emotional detox. I'm sure hoping that's what it is over the weekend. Fatigue, anxiety, depression, belly aches, trouble eating enough to keep moving and kind of force feeding. But since I was phobic about people vomiting, it seems entirely appropriate that I would be having belly problems along with all the rest of it. But the belly problems are debilitating and distracting. So trying to hang in through the work, even though I don't feel very good.
Well, it strikes me that the idea that it would be so powerful or repulsive, physically repulsive to you, but to explore enjoying yourself or knowing that you are valuable and enjoyable physically, mentally, and emotionally. That you're bucking a programming that is so well practiced and so intense. It's basically the opposite of everything you grew up with.
And I can feel that reversal happening. I can feel that the direction is turning around as if a corner has been turned or the wheel starting going the other way. Just to be caught in the mirror that way and not being horrified at the person in there, but finding the person first a stranger and then to appreciate her on just the littlest bit. I can feel that that's the right way to go. So partly I'm on just to make a report, and because it was clear to me that when you texted after the radio hour and a while later, I thought, oh my God, the guy listened to the other show, or maybe you stayed on. I didn't know which, but that's amazing to me. That's an amazing gift that you would stay on and just keep listening, and I think you do that a lot. You have this incredible passion for the work. So it's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, many times I'm not able to stay on because I have a meeting scheduled or patients or whatever, but that's the gift of the archives, is that they're still there. And especially on a show where somebody's engaged in doing some intense work, I will frequently go back and listen to the archives to see what I might learn or see what other support that person might use. And I certainly want to thank you for being willing to do that level of deep, intense work that you were willing to do on Friday, not just in the first hour, but through the entire second hour as well. That's when you talk about, commitment and passion for the work, it takes one to know one, as Course in Miracles and Way of Mastery would let us know.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that show.
Well, take your Kleenex box with you.
Well,
keep
you
breathing.
started, Dr. Finn. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all my fault. I'll take full responsibility. I'll be beating myself up after the show. Don't worry about it. I'll punish myself appropriately.
No, you should be patting yourself on the back.
Come on, you said it's all my fault.
I know, it's you know. Anyway.
Old habits die hard. The old blame game dies hard.
Right. Pam Grout's been in E Squared. I've been listening to it, and she has suggested these exercises. One being, think of something you want to see within a 48-hour period of time and set that limit of time and have the intention of seeing it and really head into that believing you're going to see it. Of course, part of me says, oh, this is baloney. But then to have the butterflies show up and the bumblebees show up. And then things start coming by
even though there's a part of you that doesn't believe it.
Right. That's very important to realize. You can set a goal and part of you is not even on board and it still can happen. So that's one thing I learned. And the other thing is things will show up, like with Michael, that book that was The Moment of Lift, right after we were talking about my mother's facelift. And I felt as if our work together was turning a corner. And this book on my book pile slides down, and there it is standing, leaning against the other books, The Moment of Lift. And Michael got it right away. He just busted out laughing and he mentioned the facelift. I had gotten the other part. I felt as if I was just stepping over onto a new piece of land, stepping over a water gap onto a new understanding, and that book shows up. But then I was doing a worksheet yesterday morning on my mother, and I turned it over, and I recycle whatever doesn't have something on one side gets to go through the printer again. I turned it over, and the passage from the story of Naaman, who had leprosy in the the Old Testament. And he is told to go and wash in the River Jordan 7 times. Okay, I'm climbing that mountain again, Dr. Tim. It just seems like the right kind of message right then is somehow to wash this off. It's not that deep. Wash it off. And wash 7 times. Because there's healing there. It just seems so funny that I turned that worksheet over and there's this old piece of music, this chancel opera I'd written years ago, and one cast-off page had become a recycled page, and there it is, these little encouragements that pop up here and there. It just seems amazing to me how friendly the universe is. And I haven't given it credit for being friendly.
Well, you were not introduced to it. You were not taught that it is friendly and that there are ways to look. There are different eyes to use to see. There are different filters. And it's the rare individual who can see those things or understand them if they weren't taught that from their family of origin. So, congratulations. And just remember that the number 7 isn't a literal number. It's, that number that's often used in scriptures because it's the number of completion. So just keep washing, just keep doing it until it's complete, and understand that there's all of these different layers of messages you can take from any of those parables or stories.
Yeah.
And aside from the title of the book that fell off the shelf, did you open it and find any gems in there?
I had been reading it. It's by Melinda Gates, and it's about her work with women overseas in third world countries in an effort to help them become healthy and also help them learn good birth control so that they're not just having baby after baby after baby and unable to take care of them, and too many babies will deplete the mother's health and deplete resources. I know some people have complained that Bill Gates wants to limit population and all this business. It isn't that. He wants to increase the quality of life of people who are here. And he wants to help these women who are really becoming malnourished and exhausted from bearing children because there's no birth control. And she talks about how they help women with lessons on good hygiene, birth control, other things. And I didn't even finish the book, but it's basically a book about respecting and honoring and helping less advantaged people, no matter where. And I'm not sure what the moment of lift is, because I haven't finished the book. But no, I didn't look at the book.
Okay, just a thought in the ongoing processing that you're doing. Just to explore those gifts, since the universe was handing you a gift by having the book fall off the shelf at just that time.
Yeah. In the worksheet in 6C, as my mother, I am asked for a time when I've not fulfilled the goal. And the goal was that my two littlest girls behave themselves and give me some peace and quiet and leave me alone.
So it would be a time when she hadn't behaved herself.
Yeah, okay.
Be asking, that if your mother was doing that worksheet, it would be her opening the window for compassion by realizing there were times in her life where she didn't, quote, behave herself, unquote.
Wow. I don't know if I could answer that.
Well, you absolutely can, because she was a human being. Every human being does things that at one point or another they look back on them and say, well, that was pretty idiotic. That doesn't make them an idiot. It's a behavior. It's not their identity.
Mm.
And if you look at the bottom line observations, one of them is, I will never be upset about anything anybody else ever says or doesn't do that I think they should, unless I'm still judging myself negatively for doing the same or similar thing. So if your mother was getting upset because her daughters were not behaving, it's only because she has still judged herself negatively for times when she was misbehaving.
Wow. Yeah, I guess. The only way I can get to that is because you said she's a human being. She was an only child and a very well-behaved, smart little girl who pleased her parents tremendously, and I don't think she ever misbehaved.
That's not true. It's not possible.
Yeah, okay.
It's all a story. My father was one of two, and his dad died when he was 6, and my grandmother, my father's mother, had him up on a pedestal. And his younger brother, who was probably the poster child for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or the creative genius, she put him down in the well, in the dungeon. And later in her life, she came to live with us because she wasn't able to live alone. When I was 13, maybe 14, she came to live with us. And every story we heard about my dad was about how he got straight A's and was the perfect child.
Okay.
Well, at one point in time, my dad, bless his heart, dug out of his files some of his report cards and showed them to us kids and said, this is just Grandma's memory. It's not the truth. Don't have to worry. I didn't get straight A's. I wasn't a perfect kid, etc.
Oh, what a great dad. Yeah.
So, being that she was human and lived on this planet, and she would get upset when her children didn't behave, we understand that she had times she misbehaved, and she was still judging herself negatively for that. Because if she had been one of those people who was immaculately conceived and had no sin and never misbehaved, in response to her children misbehaving, she would have sung them their song or embraced them. She would not have been upset.
Okay.
We just know that this is how our life works. We know that the great spiritual teachings show us this. We know that just like there's the law of gravity on this planet, there's the law that says I'm never going to be upset by anything anybody else ever says or does or doesn't do that I think they should, unless I'm still judging myself negatively for doing the same or similar thing. And when I open up the window of compassion for that, then the upset is dismantled, the compassion is present, and what I say and do flows from a loving space rather than an angry or fearful or hurt or confused space. That's just like gravity on this planet. That's just the way it is.
Wow. You've just helped me realize how little I know my mother, how much I didn't and don't know her. Except in the general way, but
yeah, but there were a lot of dynamics that were established in the interaction between you, a very intelligent and emotionally sensitive child, and the intensity of your mother's upset and anger and her own low self-esteem issues and feeling overwhelmed, and we can only guess at what they were, but they're the kinds of things that we understand happen when a parent flies into a rage and does physical punishment to a child. It's not calm and loving. It's not balanced. It's not healthy. So we know that your mother had a lot of intensity in those interactions with you that were negative, and that was interacting with your emotional sensitivity and your intelligence, and so of course it structured how limited your knowledge of your mother would be. You weren't guided, you weren't coached to being to feel safe and to be open with your emotions, and so it's not likely that she was open with her emotions and sharing the truth of her full spectrum with you.
Right.
Right? If you have somebody who's in a much healthier and being coached, really good coaching from a loving perspective, you'll have something like, I was working with a woman this morning, and she had her 8-year-old had her first communion this weekend, and the family is the parents are separated, and so this mother is going through doing almost all of this all by herself. She's getting this 8-year-old dressed and ready for this big event on Saturday, and she is getting triggered to upset about how, there's no husband/father in the picture helping out with this, and she's got to do it all herself. And so she snaps at her daughter. And then she recognizes that she snapped at her daughter. So she sits her down and she says to her, I'm really sorry I snapped. It's the pressure of the day. It's not you. I want you to have the perfect day. I want everything to go well. And I'm just getting a little harried. And so I apologize for my harsh tone. And it's not you. It's not. imagine hearing that from your mother.
Oh, my God. That would have been so wonderful.
Yeah, otherworldly, right? And your mother did the best she could in each of those moments with whatever resources she had, and her resources were severely limited and probably forged in the same kind or even more conflictual or potentially abusive interactions than what you had with your mother. So she was doing the best she could, and you did the best you could with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of that would have resulted in her being very guarded emotionally and not sharing, her own sense of fear or inadequacy or struggling. She wouldn't have shared that with you, and so you wouldn't have learned it. And you also would have learned from the interactions with her and being so harsh when she was triggered to upset that it wasn't safe to share and be open, so you didn't share as much of yourself with her.
Oh, yeah. Well, I understand that. Right.
You've even talked about that even after the fact, going back, and when one time she wanted to make a statement about something and you cut her off and said, "Oh, don't worry about it," rather than letting her make her apologies or open up, or Lord knows where that might have gone.
Yeah, she wanted to apologize for having treated us the way she did so many years before. She was at the end of her life when she said that. But anyway.
And you weren't in a place where you could let that happen. Which
no,
is okay.
I wasn't.
And yet you can continue the work, and you can continue your healing, and you can continue to open up those energetic pathways for the entire bloodline.
Yeah. I don't know what you listened to. You said you listened to something with Michael Rice. I listened to a podcast that he made, he says, 40 years ago, when I didn't even recognize his voice. He was giving a talk about the work, and it was fantastic. Is that the one you listened to?
Yeah, that was part of what I listened to over the weekend.
Yeah. All of a sudden I realized that's Michael. It's just a long time ago, but a lot of that seems so applicable right now, so relevant right now, so good. That seems like another synchronicity, but of course we all need that, and so it's not just a gift for me, but for lots of people, I'm sure, to hear that again. It's sort of like that. Somebody did a kind of cleaned up, streamlined PowerPoint. Who did that? Bill Costantino took Michael's work and made a
24 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
With Michael.
Yeah.
He worked with Michael
excellent.
for over a year on that.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, it's like, if you really want to get an idea about the work, do that one and listen to this one now, this podcast. If you need it.
All right, well, we've reached the end of our hour, and Jeannie is here.
Oh, my God.
So I thank you for your talk. Thank you, Ellen. And 8:05, if you'll hold on, Michael and Jeannie will start up their second hour, and when they're ready, they'll turn on your microphone and invite you in. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tian. Appreciate it.